My daughter replaced me with her stepdad on her wedding day. After I raised her alone, now she begged, but I taught her a lesson she'll never forget. I'm 46, a single dad who raised my daughter Emily, now 26, basically on my own after her mom, Vanessa, bailed when she was just 5 years old. Yeah, Vanessa just straight up left us. There was no big fight, no build-up. One day she said she needed space and then she was gone. I learned later why she did that, but I won't spill the tea now. You'll find out later in the story. So I was left holding the bag, trying to figure out how to raise a kid on my own. It wasn't easy, but I did it. I worked long hours, made sure Emily had everything she needed, and showed up for all the little and big moments in her life. For 12 years it was just the two of us. Emily was my whole world, and I like to think I did a decent job. I was there for every scraped knee, every school event, every tough day. Of course, she'd ask about her mom from time to time, especially as she got older. Where is she? Why did she leave? Was it my fault? That last one broke me. Every time I told her, no, sweetheart, it wasn't your fault. Your mom loves you. She just needed to go somewhere else. I never badmouthed Vanessa, even though, honestly, I wanted to. I figured Emily would come to her own conclusions when she was older. Fast forward to when Emily turned 17. Out of nowhere, Vanessa reappeared. It was a regular Saturday afternoon. I was outside working on the lawn while Emily was upstairs studying for a history test. The doorbell rang, and I figured it was a neighbor or maybe a delivery. But when I opened the door, there she was, Vanessa. She looked different, all polished up, carrying some expensive purse and smiling like we were old friends catching up after coffee. James, she said all sweet, like nothing had happened before. I could barely process what to say. Emily came downstairs and froze at the sight of her mom. She whispered, "Mom," like she wasn't sure if she was dreaming. Vanessa lit up and opened her arms. Emily ran into them, and they hugged like no time had passed. Meanwhile, I just stood there in the doorway, feeling like a damn outsider in my own house. I wish I could say that was the worst of it, but oh no. Vanessa wasn't just back to say hello. She came armed with a whole new story, one where I was the bad guy. As much as I wanted to tell the whole story of how harmful Vanessa was, I kept it to myself because I didn't want to break Emily's heart. Over the next few weeks, she started spending more and more time with Emily, lunches, shopping trips, you name it. I didn't want to stop them from reconnecting. Emily deserved to know her mom. But Vanessa wasn't just reconnecting. She was rewriting the past. She told Emily she'd left because I was controlling, that I made her life impossible. She claimed she stayed away all those years because she didn't feel safe coming back. And the worst part? Emily started believing her. I mean, she didn't come out and say, "I believe Mom," but the questions started. Why didn't you ever try to find her, Dad? Why didn't you let her back sooner? Like I'd been holding the door shut all these years. It wasn't just Vanessa, either. She brought along her new husband, Greg. Now, Greg didn't seem like a bad guy. He's one of those overly polite types who smiles a lot and doesn't say much. But Vanessa painted him as some kind of hero, the perfect stepdad who was here to fill in the gaps I'd supposedly left. I could feel the shift in Emily. She started seeing her mom and Greg as this picture-perfect family while I was just the guy who did the grunt work when they weren't around. One day, Emily hit me with, "Mom said you didn't want her around. Is that true?" I swear it felt like someone punched me in the chest. I tried to stay calm. "No, Emily, that's not true. Your mom left because she wanted to. I didn't stop her. I didn't even know where she went." She didn't respond, just nodded like she wasn't sure what to believe. That was the worst part, seeing my own daughter doubt me after everything we'd been through. Vanessa kept pushing her one big happy family act. She'd show up with Greg, all smiles, picking up Emily for another outing. I'd watch them leave, feeling like an outsider in my own daughter's life. I figured I just had to wait it out, let Emily come to her senses. But honestly, I wasn't sure how much longer I could take watching Vanessa rewrite history and make herself the hero of Emily's story. So fast forward a few years, and Emily is now 26, engaged to her boyfriend Ryan. I like the guy. He's solid, works hard, treats Emily well, and doesn't come off as a know-it-all like some of the other guys she dated. When she told me they were getting married, I was genuinely happy for her. I figured this would be one of those milestones where we could reconnect, you know. I imagined us working together on the plans, laughing about how stressful weddings are supposed to be, and honestly, I thought I'd play a big part. I mean, I raised her right. Walking her down the aisle was always something I just assumed I'd do. At first, it seemed like things were going that way. Emily asked for my help with the guest list and even ran some venue ideas by me. She seemed excited to include me, and I told her I'd help cover some of the costs. I'm not rich or anything, but I'd saved up a little over the years, and I figured it would be a nice gesture. Of course, Vanessa was lurking around the edges of every conversation. She'd pop up with suggestions about the wedding, flowers, catering, even Emily's dress. At first, I tried to ignore it. It wasn't my place to tell Emily who to listen to. But then Vanessa started making herself the center of the plans. She'd say things like, "Oh, Greg and I have connections with this amazing photographer," or, "Greg's friend owns a venue, and he could give us a great deal." Emily seemed all for it, which stung a little, but I let it slide. This was her wedding, after all. Things were rolling along until Emily and I went out for dinner one night. It was supposed to be a casual thing. Update 1. I froze for a second. I thought I'd misheard her. "Greg?" I repeated, trying to keep my voice steady. She nodded, still not looking at me. "Yeah, he's been such a big part of my life these past few years, and Mom thought it would be meaningful." There it was. Mom thought. Vanessa's fingerprints were all over this. I didn't know what to say. I just sat there, staring at her. This was supposed to be my moment. I'd been there for everything, every school event, every tough day, every achievement. And now she wanted Greg, a guy who showed up halfway through her life, to take my place. Okay, I finally said, keeping my voice as neutral as I could. Emily looked relieved, like she'd been expecting me to blow up. I just think it would mean a lot to everyone. You know, it's not about replacing you or anything. Not about replacing me, then what the hell was it about? The rest of the dinner was a blur. I think I nodded a lot and made some lame comments about how the food was good, but inside, I was fuming. How could she not see how hurtful this was? When I got home, I sat down and tried to make sense of it. I went through every memory of raising her, wondering if I'd messed up somewhere. Did I not show her enough love? Did I make her feel like I wasn't there for her? But no, that wasn't it. I knew what this was. This was Vanessa. She'd been working on this for years, planting seeds, twisting the narrative until Emily believed Greg deserved this moment more than I did. The next day, I made a decision. If I wasn't important enough to walk my own daughter down the aisle, then I wasn't going to help pay for the wedding either. I called Emily and told her straight up. Look, I love you and I want you to have the wedding you want, but I can't support something that pushes me aside. She didn't argue. She just said, I understand, in this quiet voice that made me feel like the bad guy. But what was I supposed to do? Smile and write a check while Greg played the role I'd spent 26 years earning? No thanks. Vanessa, of course, wasted no time jumping in. She called me a few days later, all fake sweetness. I heard you're not helping with the wedding anymore. Emily's really upset. Yeah, well, maybe she should have thought about that before asking Greg to take my place, I shot back. James, don't be so dramatic, she said, like I was the one overreacting. This isn't about you. It's about making everyone feel included. I laughed bitterly. Right, included, except for the guy who actually raised her. Vanessa sighed like she was tired of dealing with me. You're making this harder than it needs to be. Can't you just be happy for her? Happy? That was rich coming from the woman who walked out on her kid and then swooped back in to manipulate the facts. I hung up before I said something I'd regret. After that, things got tense. Emily barely called, and when she did, it felt forced. Vanessa and Greg were clearly taking center stage in her life, and I was being pushed further into the background. I kept telling myself this was her decision, that I had to respect it, even if it felt like a slap in the face. But deep down, I couldn't shake the feeling that I was being replaced, not just on her wedding day, but in her life. So after that dinner and the phone call with Vanessa, I was pretty much done bending over backward to make things easier for Emily. At first, I thought maybe she would come around, maybe she'd realize how much this was hurting me and rethink the whole Greg walking her down the aisle thing. But nope. If anything, it felt like she doubled down. She started acting different, distant, cold. Even if she wasn't outright rude, you know when someone's being polite just to keep the peace? That was Emily. Conversations that used to feel natural now felt forced, like she was just going through the motions. One day I called her to check in, like I usually did. Hey, Em, how's everything going? It's fine, she said, her tone clipped. I'm really busy with wedding stuff. Anything you need help with? I asked, even though I knew the answer. Mom and Greg are handling most of it, she said. Of course, they were. It stung, but I didn't press. If she didn't want my help, unless it was financial, I wasn't going to beg for scraps. Still, it was hard not to feel like I'd been pushed out of her life entirely. This wasn't just about the wedding anymore. It was about everything. Vanessa, naturally, was loving every second of it. She kept popping up with her little passive-aggressive comments like, oh, Greg is so excited to be such an important part of Emily's big day. Or, Emily's been leaning on Greg so much lately. It's really brought them closer. I wanted to tell her to shove it, but I knew that would only make things worse. Vanessa had a knack for turning every situation into a pity party for herself. If I snapped, she'd just use it as more fuel to paint me as the unreasonable, bitter ex. The final straw came when I found out Vanessa and Greg had essentially taken over the entire wedding. Emily didn't even bother telling me about some of the big decisions. I only heard about them through my sister Laura, who's still trying to play peacemaker. Emily told me she's having Mom and Greg sit at the head table with her and Ryan, Laura mentioned casually one day. What about me? I asked, even though I already knew the answer. You'll be at the family table with the other relatives, she said. And if that wasn't enough, Emily started taking things a step further. She told Laura that she didn't think I should even give a speech at the wedding. It'd be awkward. She said, since Greg's walking me down the aisle. We don't want it to seem like Dad's overshadowing him. Overshadowing him? Are you kidding me? The guy didn't even show up in her life until she was almost an adult, and now he deserved a moment in the update too. When I heard that, I knew there was no point in trying anymore. They weren't just sidelining me, they were erasing me completely. If that's what they wanted, fine. But I wasn't going to stick around and let it happen. After everything that happened, I finally hit my breaking point. I wasn't going to sit at that wedding, smile politely, and watch some guy walk my daughter down the aisle while I clapped from the sidelines. Nope, not happening. I spent a couple of days thinking about it, trying to weigh my options. Could I suck it up and go just to avoid the drama? Maybe. But the more I thought about it, the angrier I got. Why should I? I raised Emily. I was there for everything while Vanessa disappeared. And Greg didn't even know she existed. And now I was supposed to sit there and play nice. No way. Not happening. So I made up my mind. I wasn't going to the wedding. When I first told Laura, my sister, she wasn't exactly thrilled. James. She's your daughter, she said, exasperated. You'll regret not being there. No, Laura, I replied. What I'd regret is sitting there, watching Greg do what I should be doing. This isn't about me being petty, it's about respect, and Emily's made it clear where I stand. Laura sighed, but I could tell she wasn't convinced. I get it, but don't you think skipping the wedding will just make things worse? You're handing Vanessa and Greg the narrative on a silver platter. She wasn't wrong, but I wasn't about to back down. They're going to twist it no matter what I do, I said. At least this way, I'm not torturing myself. And boy, did they twist it. As soon as Vanessa caught wind of my decision, the phone call started. At first, she played the concerned co-parent card. James, are you seriously not coming? Do you realize how much this will hurt Emily? She's the one who decided to hurt me. Vanessa, I replied calmly. I'm just responding to her choice. Don't be ridiculous, Vanessa said, her tone dripping with condescension. This isn't about you. It's about Emily and her big day. I know exactly what it's about. I shot back. It's about you and Greg taking over like you've been trying to do since you came back into her life. I'm not playing along. That's when Vanessa shifted tactics. She went from concerned to outright manipulative. If you don't come, everyone's going to see what kind of father you really are, she said. You're going to embarrass Emily in front of all her guests. I laughed, but it wasn't because I thought it was funny. Oh, Vanessa, you've been painting me as the bad guy for years. Don't act like this is something new. If Emily's embarrassed, maybe she should think about why I feel the way I do. Vanessa didn't like that answer. She hung up, but I knew it wasn't over. Next, Emily called. She didn't come out swinging like her mom, but I could hear the frustration in her voice. Dad, what's this about you not coming to the wedding? I took a deep breath. Emily, I've thought about this a lot, and I just can't do it. I can't sit there and watch someone else take my place. It's not fair to me. It's not about replacing you, she said, her voice rising. I told you that already. Greg's been important to me too. And what about me, Emily? I asked. Where do I fit in? You've made all these decisions to push me aside, and now you're asking me to just show up and clap politely. I can't do that. Emily sighed heavily, like she was the one being wronged. I'm trying to make everyone happy, Dad. Why do you have to make this harder? I'm not making it harder, I said firmly. I'm standing up for myself. You made your choice, and this is mine. That didn't go over well. She muttered something about me being selfish and hung up. I sat there for a while after the call, but I knew I couldn't cave. Then the guilt tripping started. Vanessa started calling family members, telling them I was abandoning Emily on her wedding day. Suddenly I had cousins, uncles, and even my aunt, who I hadn't spoken to in years, calling me to weigh in. James, come on, one of my cousins said. It's just one day. Don't let this ruin your relationship with Emily. It's not one day, I replied. It's the result of years of Vanessa twisting things to suit her benefit. This is just the final straw. Even my mom chimed in, and while she meant well, it still stung. Honey, you've always been such a good father. Don't let this be the thing Emily remembers. Mom, she's the one who decided to cut me out, I said, trying to keep my voice steady. I'm not going to sit there and let her and Vanessa act like I don't exist. No matter how much they tried to guilt me, I didn't budge. I knew they were all getting their version of the story from Vanessa and Emily, and no one cared to ask me how I felt. The days leading up to the wedding were brutal. Everywhere I turned, someone was asking if I was excited or ready for the big day. I just smiled and nodded, keeping my decision to myself. The last thing I wanted was more people piling on. On the day of the wedding, I stayed home. I didn't want to be anywhere near the chaos. I spent the day cleaning the house, organizing my garage, anything to keep my mind off what was happening. Laura texted me later that evening. Well, you missed quite the show, she said. What happened? I asked, half interested. Vanessa gave a speech about how Greg stepped up as a father figure. Not a single mention of you, she replied. I wasn't surprised, but it still hurt. Figures, I said. Despite everything, I didn't regret my decision. Sitting at that wedding would have been like rubbing salt in the wound. By staying home, I at least kept my dignity intact. Vanessa and Emily could spin their stories however they wanted, but I knew the truth. Sometimes standing up for yourself means walking away, no matter how much it hurts. After skipping the wedding, I spent a lot of time reflecting on everything. I kept coming back to one question. If Emily was so willing to sideline me in her life now, what did that mean for the future? I realized that if Emily could do this now, then it wasn't a stretch to imagine her continuing to lean into Vanessa's narrative as time went on. What if this was just the start? What if the rest of my life was going to be spent as a footnote in Emily's story?